All right, strap yourselves in, because today we're diving deep into some pretty mind-bending stuff. The cities, heard
Siddhis.
of them?
Yeah.
They're these like extraordinary abilities, almost like superpowers, that are described in ancient yogic texts.
Right.
We're talking precognition, telepathy, even like influencing the elements.
Huh.
It's like stuff that sounds straight out of like a sci-fi movie.
It's a fascinating area where ancient wisdom kind of intersects with modern science.
Yeah.
What's really intriguing is that, according to yogi philosophy, these cities aren't like some supernatural gifts,
Right.
but rather natural outcomes of mastering advanced meditative states.
So no magic wands or secret rituals involved.
No, no.
Okay. So what's the like yogic perspective on how these abilities actually work?
Well, they arise from a deep, focused awareness that goes beyond the ordinary limitations of perception. It's
Okay.
like the tip of an iceberg.
Okay.
The cities are just a glimpse of this vast potential hidden within the human mind,
Right.
a potential that most people never tap into.
That's pretty wild. But here's the thing that like really gets me.
Yeah.
Even in yogic traditions, they warn against getting too caught up in cities.
Right.
Why is that? You'd think these abilities would be like highly sought after.
Well, imagine you're on a journey and you keep getting distracted by like shiny objects along the way.
Right.
You might never reach your destination.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
On the path to enlightenment, cities can be like those shiny objects.
Okay.
They can become a distraction from the ultimate goal, which is self-realization and liberation.
So it's about keeping your eye on the bigger picture, not just like the flashy powers. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, those powers are pretty darn cool, like precognition,
Uh-huh.
knowing the future. That's one city that really like captures the imagination, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it challenges our very understanding of time.
Right.
What's truly mind-boggling is that modern science has actually been investigating precognition for decades.
Oh, wow.
And the findings are pretty compelling.
Wait, scientists are actually seeing the future?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
No, it's serious.
Wow.
One approach is using what are called forced choice experiments.
Okay.
So imagine trying to guess what symbol is on a card
Yeah.
before it's revealed.
Okay.
When hundreds of these studies are analyzed together, the odds of people guessing correctly consistently exceed chance.
Wow.
And not just by a little bit.
Okay.
We're talking odds of 1 in a million against chance.
So it's like people are hitting the target more often than pure luck would allow.
Right.
What could be like explaining that?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's led some researchers to seriously consider the possibility of precognitive abilities.
Oh, wow.
Then there are what are called free response experiments,
Right.
where people describe future events or locations without any constraints.
Okay.
This taps into a more intuitive kind of precognition,
Uh-huh.
less about specific details, more about a general sense of what's to come.
Okay, I see how that might align with the yogic idea of like expanding awareness beyond ordinary limits.
Right.
But is there any evidence that meditation specifically, like as described in the Yoga Sutras, could actually enhance these abilities?
Well, there's a fascinating experiment where researchers studied the brainwave patterns of experienced meditators compared to non-meditators.
Okay.
And they found that the meditators showed distinct brainwave patterns anticipating future stimuli,
Wow.
almost like they were unconsciously tuning into the future.
That's incredible. It does make you wonder if there's something to this idea of cultivating a deeper awareness through meditation. So we've got precognition, seeing the future. What about another classic, telepathy
Yeah.
or mind-to-mind communication? Have you ever felt like you just knew what someone was thinking?
Many people report such experiences.
Yeah.
And while anecdotal accounts are intriguing, researchers have developed more rigorous ways to study telepathy in the lab.
I bet those experiments involve a lot more than just like staring intensely at each other. What are the researchers actually doing?
Well, one of the most well-researched techniques is called the Ganzfeld experiment,
Okay.
which aims to reduce sensory input to minimize distractions and create a kind of mental quiet space.
Okay.
The idea is that by reducing this external noise, subtle telepathic impressions might be more likely to surface.
Ah, so it's about creating the right conditions for those subtle signals to come through.
Exactly.
And this technique actually has roots in yogic practices, doesn't it?
You're right. The Ganzfeld technique was actually inspired by the yogic practice of pratyahara, which is the withdrawal of the senses from external stimuli.
Right.
It's about turning your attention inward and cultivating a deeper state of inner awareness.
So we see this interesting convergence of ancient wisdom and modern science once again. But what about the results? Have the Gansfeld experiments actually shown evidence for telepathy?
The results have been quite impressive. Even surprising, some of the researchers involved.
Wow.
Meta-analyses of these studies show statistically significant evidence for telepathy,
Okay.
with a hit rate consistently higher than chance would predict.
Wow, that's pretty convincing. So even the doubters are starting to see the signal through the noise. It makes you wonder, like, if we can pick up these subtle impressions in, like, a controlled lab setting, what might be happening in our everyday lives that we're just not noticing?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
And it leads us to another interesting area of research, what some call telepathy in the wild.
Okay.
So instead of relying on lab settings, researchers like Rupert Sheldrake have designed experiments to study telepathic experiences in more natural everyday contexts.
Okay.
Things like knowing who's calling before you answer the phone, or feeling a sudden urge to contact someone right before they reach out to you.
Okay, now that's something I can relate to. We've all had those weird moments of synchronicity, those I was just thinking about you moments.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder what else might be going on beneath the surface of our awareness.
Exactly, and it highlights the need to expand our research methods and consider the full spectrum of human experience, not just what's easily measurable in a controlled lab setting.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like we're almost rediscovering ancient wisdom through modern science.
Yeah.
The yogis might have been onto something all along, tapping into a deeper understanding of reality, like centuries before science even began to catch up.
Right. It's like they were exploring the inner universe while science was still focused on mapping the outer one. Makes you wonder what other secrets are waiting to be uncovered.
Right.
But speaking of pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible, this next city is a bit less flashy than, say, telepathy,
Okay.
but perhaps even more perplexing, the ability to live without food. You're talking about Indias, the idea that someone could survive and thrive without consuming any food or water. It sounds pretty out there. I know.
Well, my stomach definitely can't imagine skipping a meal, let alone going like days, weeks, or even years without food.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling you're going to tell me there's actually some evidence to support this.
There are a couple of intriguing cases that have really caught the attention of researchers.
Okay.
One involves a man named Prahlad Jani, who claimed to have lived without food or water for over 70 years.
70 years? That's longer than most people's lifetimes. I mean, come on. That's got to be a hoax, right?
I know, it seems unbelievable. But in 2003 and again in 2010, he was observed in a hospital setting under 247 video surveillance.
Okay.
And in both instances, he didn't consume anything for over 10 days.
So what did the doctors make of this? Were they able to explain like how he was surviving without any food or water?
They were baffled. All of his vital signs remained stable throughout the observation periods, and they couldn't find any physiological explanation for how he was able to function without sustenance. Of course, there were skeptics who suggested there must have been some trickery involved.
Right.
Some way he was sneaking food or water that the cameras missed.
But if he was under constant surveillance, wouldn't they have, like, noticed something?
That's what the hospitals maintain.
Okay.
They claim he was continuously monitored, and they reported that he never used the bathroom.
Yeah.
It just deepens the mystery.
Okay. So maybe there's more to this story than meets the eye. But one guy claiming to live off of air for decades doesn't exactly prove anything. Are there any other examples of this Inidia city being observed?
There's another fascinating case involving a Swiss man named Michael Werner, who claims to have stopped eating solid food back in 2001. He also participated in a hospital observation study similar to Jani's, though the results of that study haven't been officially published.
It's really strange that these cases haven't been investigated more rigorously.
Right.
I mean, if it's truly possible to live without food, that would be a revolutionary discovery, wouldn't it?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But the scientific community can be pretty hesitant to embrace radical ideas that that challenge our current understanding of biology and human physiology.
I guess it's easier to dismiss something as impossible than to consider the possibility that we might not have all the answers.
That's often the case, but these cases, whether you believe them or not, raise important questions about the potential of the human body and the limits of our current scientific knowledge. Maybe there are aspects of human physiology that we still don't fully understand.
Okay, so maybe we're not all going to be giving up grocery shopping anytime soon. But these examples are definitely food for thought, no pun intended.
Right.
Speaking of pushing the boundaries of what seems possible, let's move on to another category of cities that delve into the intersection of consciousness and the physical world, things like influencing the elements or even defying gravity.
You're talking about some serious superpower territory.
Yeah.
But before we get carried away with visions of telekinetic feats and weather manipulation, let's see if there's any scientific evidence to ground these more out there claims.
Exactly. I'm all for exploring the possibilities, but I'm also a firm believer in keeping things grounded in reality.
Right.
So what does science have to say about these more extraordinary cities?
Well, as you can imagine, these claims are incredibly difficult to study under controlled conditions.
Right.
And even the more testable cities like precognition and telepathy face a lot of resistance within mainstream science.
So when it comes to things like influencing the elements or levitating, we're relying more on anecdotal accounts and ancient texts than on hard scientific data.
That's correct. But it's important to remember that the absence of scientific evidence doesn't necessarily disprove these claims. It simply means that our current scientific methods might not be sophisticated enough to measure or understand these phenomena.
Right. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. But let's be honest, some of these CDs, like walking through walls or materializing objects out of thin air, sound pretty far-fetched, even for a show like The Deep Dive.
I agree. A healthy dose of skepticism is always warranted.
Right.
Especially when dealing with extraordinary claims. But at the same time, it's also important to keep an open mind and remember that our understanding of the universe is constantly evolving.
Right.
What seems impossible today might become commonplace tomorrow.
Well said. So while we might not be seeing yogis levitating on the evening news anytime soon, it's still fascinating to consider the possibility that consciousness might have a more profound influence on the physical world than we currently realize.
It's a tantalizing thought,
Mm-hmm.
and it raises profound questions about the nature of reality and the untapped potential of the human mind. What if our thoughts and intentions have a real measurable impact on the world around us?
Now, that's a mind-blowing concept, but instead of jumping straight to conjuring storms or teleporting across continents, maybe there's a more subtle way to explore this idea.
Right.
What about the research on distant intentionality?
Okay.
The idea that our thoughts and intentions can have measurable effects on distant people and events.
You're right. That's a more grounded approach.
Yeah.
It's like those good vibes we send out to friends and family,
Yeah.
but amplified to a whole new level. And this area of research has actually yielded some pretty intriguing results.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that focused intention, particularly when coupled with practices like meditation, can influence everything from the growth of plants to the healing of wounds in others.
So it's not just about wishing for something to happen, but rather about cultivating a focused intention and directing it towards a specific outcome.
Exactly. It's about harnessing the power of the mind to influence the physical world, even from a distance. And while we don't fully understand the mechanisms behind these effects, the evidence suggests that consciousness might play a more active role in shaping reality than we previously thought.
I remember reading about a study where trained healers were able to influence the growth rate of bacteria cultures from a distance. That just blew my mind.
This is pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's a growing body of research exploring the power of prayer and distant healing to influence health outcomes as well.
So it's like we're tapping into a hidden connection, a kind of cosmic internet that allows our intentions to ripple outward and influence the world around us.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And this interconnectedness, this idea that we're not separate, isolated beings, it's also a central theme in many spiritual traditions.
So once again, we see this convergence of ancient wisdom and modern science. The more we explore these cities, the more we realize that the universe is far more mysterious and interconnected than we ever imagined.
Yeah.
But let's bring it back down to Earth for a moment
Right.
and discuss some specific examples of these intention experiments. What kind of studies have been done, and what have they revealed?
Well, one of the most well-known experiments in this field is called the love study, which investigated the effects of compassionate intention on a distant receiver's physiological responses.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this love study and what they discovered.
Well, in this study, trained meditators were instructed to cultivate feelings of love and compassion, and then direct those intentions towards a person located in a shielded room miles away.
So it's like sending a long distance hug with some extra oomph.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that the receiver's physiological responses, things like skin conductance and heart rate, showed measurable changes during the periods when the meditators were sending their intentions, even though the receiver had no idea when those intentions were being sent.
So even though the receiver was completely unaware, their body was still picking up on something.
Right.
But how do we know this wasn't just random chance? What kind of controls did they have in place to rule out other explanations?
That's a great question. The researchers used rigorous controls to minimize the possibility of chance or other factors influencing the results. They randomized the timing of the intention sending periods, and the receiver was in a shielded room to eliminate any potential cues or communication. The fact that the receiver's physiological responses consistently change during the intention periods, even though they didn't know when those periods were, suggests that something real was happening.
That's pretty convincing. It makes you wonder what kind of impact we might have on the world around us, both consciously and unconsciously through our thoughts and intentions.
It's a profound thought, and it points to the interconnectedness of all things.
Right.
But this interconnectedness might extend beyond interpersonal interactions.
Yeah.
There's even research exploring the possibility that collective intention might influence larger scale events like social trends or even global conflicts.
Now that's a powerful idea. Are you referring to the research on the Maharishi effect?
Exactly. The Maharishi effect proposes that when large groups of people meditate together, they create a kind of field of coherence that extends outward and influences the surrounding environment, promoting peace and harmony.
So it's like creating a ripple effect of positive energy that spreads outwards from the meditators.
That's the idea. And there have been some intriguing studies that suggest that the Maharishi effect might have a measurable impact on things like crime rates, social unrest, and even global conflict. One study, for example, found a significant decrease in violent crime in Washington, D.C. during a period when a large group of meditators were gathered in the city.
That's incredible. So by cultivating inner peace and harmony,
Yeah.
we might actually be contributing to a more peaceful world.
It's a beautiful and hopeful concept.
And it highlights the potential for collective action, even at a subtle level, to create positive change.
This is truly mind-expanding stuff.
Right, sir.
But I imagine these claims about the Maharishi effect are met with a fair amount of skepticism, especially within the scientific community.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
These studies are often criticized for methodological flaws or for being influenced by the researcher's own beliefs.
Yeah.
It's important to evaluate the research carefully and consider all perspectives before drawing any conclusions.
Right.
But even with the controversy surrounding these findings, the possibility that collective intention might influence the world around us is a powerful and thought-provoking idea.
It makes you wonder what we might be capable of achieving if we truly harness the power of our collective consciousness. But for now, let's shift our focus to another intriguing aspect of psychokinesis: the influence of intention on our own bodies and health. I know there's been a lot of research on the placebo effect and the power of belief to influence healing.
You're right. The placebo effect is a fascinating phenomenon that demonstrates the incredible power of the mind to influence the body.
So even if a treatment is fake or inactive, the belief that it will work can actually trigger like real physiological changes.
Exactly. And what's even more interesting is that the placebo effect is not just about fooling people. Studies have shown that even when people know they're receiving a placebo, it can still have a significant impact on their symptoms.
So it's not about deception, but rather about like harnessing the power of expectation and belief to activate the body's own healing mechanisms.
That's the idea. And the placebo effect is not limited to just physical ailments. It's been shown to influence everything from mood and anxiety to pain perception and even immune function.
Wow, so our minds really do have a powerful influence on our bodies.
Absolutely. This research highlights the importance of addressing the mind-body connection and recognizing the role of belief and expectation in healing.
This deep dive is taking us deeper and deeper into the mysteries of consciousness.
Right.
We've explored precognition, telepathy, psychokinesis,
All right.
and now the power of the placebo effect.
Yeah.
It seems like the more we learn about the Siddhis, the more we realize how much we don't know about the true nature of reality and the potential of the human mind.
It's a humbling and awe-inspiring journey, reminding us that there's still so much to discover, both within ourselves and in the vast universe around us. But speaking of exploring the potential of the human body, let's talk about a city that's both fascinating and practical, the ability to control our own body temperature.
You're referring to the Yogic practice of tumo meditation, which is said to allow practitioners to generate intense heat, even in freezing temperatures. It sounds impossible, but knowing this show, I have a feeling you're going to tell me there's some evidence to back this up.
You're catching on.
Yeah.
While the idea of generating heat through meditation might seem far-fetched, there have actually been some scientific studies investigating the physiological effects of tumo meditation.
So scientists are actually taking this seriously.
They are. And the findings are pretty remarkable. Studies have shown that tumo practitioners can significantly raise their body temperature, even in extremely cold environments.
Wow, so they're not just like toughing it out, they're actually generating heat from within.
That's right. And while the mechanisms behind this ability are still not fully understood, research suggests that tumo meditation might involve a combination of focused breathing techniques, visualization, and mental control.
So it's not just about like willpower, but rather about harnessing the power of the mind-body connection to influence our own physiology.
Exactly. And this research has implications not just for understanding ancient yogic practices, but also for exploring the potential of the human body and mind to achieve extraordinary feats.
It makes you wonder what other hidden abilities might be lying dormant within us, just waiting to be unlocked.
Right.
But before we get carried away with visions of becoming human furnaces, let's dive a little deeper into the research on tumo meditation and see what it reveals.
Well, one of the most well-known studies on tumo meditation was conducted by Herbert Benson, a renowned researcher at Harvard Medical School.
Okay.
He and his team traveled to the Himalayas to study Tibetan monks who had mastered this practice.
So they went straight to the source. What did they find?
They found that the monks were able to raise the temperature of their fingers and toes by as much as 17 degrees Fahrenheit, even while sitting in freezing cold conditions.
17 degrees. That's a significant difference. How is that even possible?
Well, the monks explained that they were using a combination of breathing techniques, visualization, and focused attention to generate heat from within.
So it's like they were tapping into an internal energy source.
That's how they described it. And while the scientific explanation might involve more complex physiological processes, the results were undeniable.
Okay. So maybe we're not all going to be meditating our way to a tropical vacation anytime soon, but these findings definitely point to the incredible potential of the human body and mind.
Absolutely. And the research on Tummo meditation has implications not just for understanding ancient yogic practices, but also for exploring the potential of the human body to adapt to extreme environments and to heal itself.
This deep dive is taking us on quite a journey. We've explored precognition, telepathy, psychokinesis, the placebo effect, and now Tummo meditation. It's like we're peeling back the layers of reality and discovering a whole new world of possibility.
It's truly remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it reminds us that the universe and our place within it is far more mysterious and wondrous than we often realize. But let's shift our attention now to another fascinating aspect of the Siddhis. The idea of influencing the elements, like controlling the weather or summoning fire.
Okay, now we're talking about some serious Avatar, The Last Airbender stuff.
Right.
While it sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, I have a feeling there's some cultural and historical context to consider here.
You're right. While the idea of controlling the elements might seem like pure fantasy to a modern scientific mind, these beliefs have been deeply embedded in many cultures throughout history.
So it's not just a random idea that someone pulled out of thin air.
Not at all.
Okay.
These beliefs are often rooted in a worldview that sees consciousness as interconnected with the natural world.
Right.
Instead of seeing ourselves as separate from nature, we're seen as part of a larger interconnected web.
Okay. I can see how that perspective might lead to beliefs about influencing the elements.
Right.
But are there any specific examples from history or culture that illustrate these beliefs?
There are many. For instance, in ancient cultures around the world, there were often shamans or medicine men who were believed to have the ability to communicate with spirits, heal the sick, and even influence the weather.
So these individuals were seen as having a special connection to the natural world and the power to influence it.
That's right. And these beliefs were often passed down through generations, becoming an integral part of the culture's mythology and worldview.
That's fascinating. It seems like the more we explore these cities, the more we realize that they're not just isolated beliefs, but rather expressions of a deeper understanding of the relationship between consciousness and reality.
That's a key insight.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that these beliefs, even if they might not align with our modern scientific understanding, can offer valuable insights into the human psyche and our relationship with the world around us.
Well said. But while it's fascinating to explore the cultural and historical context of these beliefs, I'm still curious about whether there's any scientific evidence to support the idea of influencing the elements.
As you can imagine, this is a very difficult area to study scientifically. The claims are often subjective and difficult to measure, and there are many potential confounding factors that could influence the outcome of any experiment.
So it's not like we can just set up a controlled experiment and have someone summon a rainstorm on demand.
Not quite.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean there haven't been any attempts to investigate these claims scientifically.
Ooh, tell me more.
There have been some researchers who have explored the possibility that consciousness might influence weather patterns.
Okay.
For instance, there have been studies looking at the effects of large-scale meditation gatherings on rainfall and other weather phenomena.
So it's like the Maharishi effect, but applied to the weather.
In a sense, yes. And while the results of these studies have been mixed, some have shown intriguing correlations between meditation and changes in weather patterns.
Intriguing indeed. But I imagine these studies are met with a healthy dose of skepticism, especially within the scientific community.
You're absolutely right. It's essential to approach these claims with a critical eye and to consider all possible explanations before drawing any conclusions.
So while the evidence might not be conclusive, the possibility that consciousness might influence the elements is a fascinating one to consider.
It certainly is, and it reminds us that
Yeah.
there's still so much we don't understand about the nature of reality and the potential of the human mind.
Well said. But before we get too carried away with visions of becoming weather wizards, let's shift our focus to another intriguing city that's been associated with advanced yogic practices, the ability to control the elements within our own bodies.
You're referring to the yogic concept of prana or life force energy, and the idea that we can control the flow of this energy within our bodies.
Exactly. Now, I know that the concept of prana might not fit neatly into our modern scientific understanding of biology, but I have a feeling there's more to this story than meets the eye.
You know me too well.
Yeah.
While the concept of prana might seem like a mystical or esoteric idea, it's actually rooted in a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of the body, mind, and spirit.
So it's not just about manipulating some invisible energy, but rather about like recognizing the subtle energy flows within ourselves.
Right.
And learning to influence them.
That's the idea. And while we might not have a scientific instrument that can directly measure prana, the effects of working with this energy can be quite tangible.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, for instance, many yogic practices such as pranayama, breathing exercises, and asana, physical postures are designed to regulate the flow of prana within the body.
So by practicing yoga, we're essentially working with this life force energy, even if we don't consciously realize it.
Exactly. And the benefits of these practices, such as increased vitality, reduced stress, and improved health, can be seen as evidence of the positive effects of working with prana.
Fascinating. It seems like the more we explore these Siddhis, the more we realize they're not just isolated beliefs or mystical powers, but rather expressions of a deeper understanding of the human experience.
That's a key insight.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that these ancient traditions, even if they might not align perfectly with our modern scientific paradigms, can offer valuable insights into the nature of consciousness and our place in the universe.
Well said. But while it's intriguing to explore the theoretical underpinnings of prana and its role in yogic practices, I'm still curious about whether there's any scientific evidence to support the idea that we can consciously control the flow of energy within our bodies.
As you can imagine, this is a very difficult area to study scientifically. The concept of prana is not easily quantifiable, and there are many potential confounding factors that could influence the outcome of any experiment.
So it's not like we can just like hook someone up to a machine and measure their prana levels.
Not quite. But that doesn't mean there haven't been any attempts to investigate these claims scientifically.
Tell me more.
There have been some researchers who have explored the possibility that certain practices, such as biofeedback and energy healing, might influence the flow of energy within the body.
So while we might not be able to directly measure prana, we might be able to observe its effects on other physiological processes.
Exactly. And some studies have shown intriguing correlations between these practices and changes in things like heart rate variability, brainwave activity, and even pain perception.
Intriguing indeed, but I imagine these studies are met with a fair amount of skepticism, especially within the scientific community.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's essential to approach these claims with a critical eye and to consider all possible explanations before drawing any conclusions.
So while the evidence might not be conclusive, the possibility that we might be able to consciously influence the flow of energy within our bodies is a fascinating one to consider.
It certainly is. And it reminds us that there's still so much we don't understand about the nature of consciousness and the potential of the human mind.
Well said. But before we get too too carried away with visions of becoming energy masters, let's take a step back.
Okay.
And consider the broader implications of what we've explored so far. What does it all mean?
You're talking about the potential for these cities, whether they're scientifically validated or not,
Right.
to challenge our assumptions,
Right.
to challenge our assumptions about reality and expand our understanding of what's possible.
Mm.
Exactly. This deep dive has taken us on quite a journey through the realms of precognition, telepathy, psychokinesis, and the subtle energy flows within our bodies.
It's been quite an exploration, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's clear that the cities, even if they might seem like supernatural powers, are ultimately about tapping into a deeper understanding of ourselves and our connection to the universe.
Well said. But before we get too philosophical, let's bring it back down to Earth for a moment.
Okay.
And discuss some practical applications of what we've learned. How can we apply these insights into the nature of consciousness and the power of intention in our everyday lives? You're right. That's a great point. While we might not all be levitating or reading minds anytime soon, there are still valuable lessons we can take away from our exploration of the Siddhis. For instance, the research on precognition and the power of intuition suggests that we might be able to develop a greater awareness of subtle cues and patterns that can help us make better decisions and navigate the complexities of life.
So it's about honing our inner compass,
Right.
and learning to trust our gut feelings.
Exactly. And the research on telepathy and the interconnectedness of consciousness highlights the importance of empathy and compassion in our interactions with others.
So it's not just about like reading minds,
Right.
but about cultivating a deeper understanding and connection with the people around us.
Precisely. And the research on psychokinesis and the power of intention suggests that we might have a greater influence on our own health and well-being than we often realize.
Mm-hmm. So it's about taking an active role in our own healing,
Right.
and recognizing the power of our thoughts and beliefs to shape our reality.
That's the idea. And the yogic practices we've discussed, such as pranayama and meditation, offer practical tools for cultivating inner peace, developing greater self-awareness, and tapping into the transformative potential of consciousness.
It seems like the Siddhis, even if they might seem like supernatural powers, are ultimately about empowering ourselves and realizing our full potential.
It's a beautiful and inspiring message, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it reminds us that the journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth is an ongoing one, full of endless possibilities.
Well said. But before we get too carried away with visions of enlightenment and self-mastery, let's bring it back to the topic at hand.
Okay.
And consider the significance of these Siddhis within the broader context of yogic philosophy and practice.
You're talking about how these abilities, whether they're scientifically validated or not,
Right.
are ultimately seen as stepping stones on the path to spiritual liberation.
Exactly. While the Siddhis might seem like the ultimate goal, they're actually viewed as potential distractions from the true aim of yoga, which is self-realization and union with the divine.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
The yogis warn against becoming attached to these powers, as they can easily inflate the ego and lead one astray from the true path.
So it's not about seeking power for its own sake, but rather about recognizing that these abilities are a natural byproduct of spiritual awakening and should be used in service of a higher purpose.
Precisely. And this is where the ethical dimension of yoga comes into play.
Okay.
The yamas and yanas, which are ethical guidelines for living a virtuous life, are considered essential for anyone seeking to develop their spiritual potential.
So it's not enough to just master the techniques. You also need to cultivate a strong moral compass,
Right.
and a commitment to living in alignment with your highest values.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
not enough to simply possess these extraordinary abilities.
Right.
The true test lies in how we use them and whether they lead us towards greater wisdom, compassion, and service to others.
So it's about aligning our actions with our highest values and using these powers for the benefit of all beings.
Right.
It makes you wonder if the real superpower isn't the ability to levitate or control the elements, but rather the capacity to transcend our ego and act from a place of love and compassion.
That's a profound insight. Perhaps the true Siddhi lies in the awakening of the heart and the realization of our interconnectedness with all things.
This deep dive has been a wild ride through the world of cities, exploring the intersection of ancient wisdom and modern science. We've encountered mind-blowing possibilities and challenged our assumptions about the limits of human potential.
It's been a fascinating journey, hasn't it?
It has.
And it's clear that the cities, whether they're scientifically validated or not, invite us to explore the mysteries of consciousness and to consider the vast potential that lies within each of us.
Well said. But before we wrap up, I have one final question that's been nagging at me throughout this deep dive. If these cities are truly attainable through dedicated practice, why don't we see more people exhibiting these abilities in the world today?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
There are several possible explanations. Firstly, the path to developing these abilities is said to be a long and arduous one, requiring intense discipline, dedication, and often renunciation of worldly pursuits.
So it's not something you can just pick up on a weekend workshop.
Definitely not.
Okay.
It's a lifelong pursuit that demands unwavering commitment.
Right.
Secondly, as we've discussed, the yogis caution against seeking cities for their own sake.
Right.
They're seen as potential distractions on the path to spiritual liberation.
So those who have attained these abilities might not be showcasing them or seeking recognition for them.
Exactly. They might be using their powers discreetly in service of others, or simply focusing on their own spiritual evolution. Thirdly, it's possible that our modern world, with its emphasis on materialism and external validation, creates an environment that's not conducive to developing these subtle abilities.
So it's like we're surrounded by so much noise,
Right,
and distraction that it's difficult to tune into those deeper levels of awareness.
precisely. The yogis emphasize the importance of cultivating stillness, silence, and inner peace as a foundation for spiritual growth.
It makes you wonder if we're inadvertently limiting our own potential by focusing so much on the external world and neglecting the inner landscape of our own consciousness.
It's a question worth pondering, isn't it?
Yeah.
Perhaps the key to unlocking these extraordinary abilities lies in rediscovering the ancient wisdom of stillness, introspection, and connection to something greater than ourselves.
Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the world of cities. We've explored mind-blowing possibilities, challenged our assumptions about reality, and glimpsed the transformative potential of the human spirit.
It's been an incredible journey, and it reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge and understanding is a lifelong endeavor, full of wonder, mystery, and endless possibilities.
We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to explore the mysteries of the universe, both within and around you. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep expanding your awareness of what's truly possible.